As the Russia-Ukraine war nears its third year, the world has witnessed countless lives lost, a shattered economy, and geopolitical tensions that ripple across the globe. However, there's one question that keeps resurfacing amidst the chaos. Where did the billions of dollars in military aid to Ukraine actually go? In a stunning revelation, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy has shed light on the gap between the US government's promises and what actually reached Ukraine's borders. According to Zelenskyy, Ukraine has only received a fraction, just $75 billion, of the $177 billion military aid package approved under the Biden administration. When I hear, both in the past and even now, from the US that America has provided Ukraine with hundreds of billions, as the president of a nation at war, I can tell you we've received more than $75 billion. Said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, the roots of this confusion trace back to the actions of US President Donald Trump. During his administration, foreign aid to Ukraine was virtually frozen, with the notable exceptions of military support to Israel and Egypt. Yet, in the years that followed, Trump's administration continued to insist that military aid to Ukraine was not halted. However, Zelenskyy's recent comments raise uncomfortable questions. If $177 billion was approved, why did Ukraine only receive a fraction of that sum? And why was Ukraine kept in the dark about the allocation of these funds? Zelenskyy further clarified that much of the aid Ukraine did receive came not as cash but in the form of weapons, roughly $70 billion worth. The president also expressed his frustration with the repeated claims from Washington that Ukraine had received over $200 billion in support. So, when people talk about $177 billion or even $200 billion, we've never received that. We're talking about tangible things because this aid didn't come as cash but rather as weapons, which amounted to about $70 billion US. Said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, this distinction between cash and weapons is crucial. Ukraine, a nation torn apart by war, is forced to rely on arms and military technology to defend its borders. But where are the other billions allocated? This question has sparked widespread rumors and suspicions of corruption at the highest levels. Zelenskyy himself hinted at potential corruption, though he stopped short of making direct accusations. Could the missing funds have been siphoned off by corrupt officials or powerful lobbies? Zelenskyy suggested that what might be considered corruption in Ukraine could be viewed as lobbyism in other parts of the world. Perhaps the US president's administration will audit these programs and find additional billions, but I don't know where those funds went. Said Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy, this admission comes amidst growing scrutiny of global military aid programs and the opaque nature of foreign spending during wartime. Even tech mogul Elon Musk, now leading the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, has taken note of these concerns. As Musk pushes for transparency and accountability in government spending, the question of military aid allocation takes center stage. Amidst all the confusion, Zelenskyy has made it clear that Ukraine will continue its efforts to combat corruption within its own borders. He even claims that the country has one of the most complex anti-corruption systems in Europe. Yet, as the war rages on, Zelenskyy is calling for greater transparency, especially when it comes to the foreign funds that support Ukraine's defense. Meanwhile, President Donald Trump has weighed in on the conflict. Trump has repeatedly claimed that had he been in office in 2022, Russia would never have invaded Ukraine. Could Trump's peace through strength approach have prevented the war from the outset? Zelenskyy himself has expressed admiration for Trump's philosophy, even while Kyiv remains committed to securing a future without Russian aggression. As these political battles unfold, the situation on the ground in Ukraine remains dire. Just this past weekend, Russia launched a devastating barrage of drones and missiles, killing at least 15 people and damaging critical infrastructure. Residential buildings and energy grids were severely hit, while both sides exchanged blame for an attack on a boarding school in Russian-held Kursk, where 4 were killed. As the war continues, Ukraine's struggle for survival becomes a battle not just on the front lines but in the halls of power, where questions about aid allocation, corruption, and international support grow louder. The unanswered question remains: where did the billions go? As Ukraine faces its darkest days, one thing is clear: the road ahead will be long, and the cost of war will continue to rise. But for Ukraine, there is no turning back.